You're listening to the Call Kent podcast, where Kent C. Dodds answers questions and gives insights to software engineers like you. Now, let's hear the call.
Hi, Kent. Do you plan to update the testing course to add or update the content to teach the remix testing methodology? I see you folks are using Playwright quite extensively in the codebase, and I would like to ask if this adds too much time, because usually people, and in the course as well, you use Jest a lot, and for some end-to-end tests, Cypress, I guess. And but usually the end-to-end test is not that much. But I see for Remix kind of different. You use that a lot in the codebase. So I am very curious to know what is your thought process on this kind of decisions for Remix and Remix tests. So that's it. Thank you.
And that was the call. Here's what Kent had to say.
Hey, Bruno. Thank you for the question. So yeah, this is a good one. As far as whether I plan on updating testingjavascript.com, I am currently working on figuring out the best way to update testingjavascript.com. And there is, I don't know if I would say that there's a plan to update it in 2023. I can't commit to that now, but I think that we might be able to make that happen. In any case, I do plan on eventually updating testingjavascript.com. So as far as whether it will be using Playwright and whether the methodology changes much or not, it's important to note that Remixed is a little bit of a unique framework because, or at least in a unique position, because it is a framework, and so it's very concerned with the network and what files are being requested and stuff like that. It needs to have a very fine-grained control over the specifics of how the framework is getting loaded and what it's doing with your files and file-based routing and stuff like that. So end-to-end tests seem to work a lot better for that type of thing. And then another thing about it is there until very, very recently, and I don't think it's even released yet, there was no way to, or no easy way, and no utility, I guess, for testing any React components that were using Remix components. And so it was just very difficult. And so now I know that Ryan has been working on implementing some utilities for testing Remix components like link and use loader data and stuff like that. And so with those in place, those utilities in place, then Remix will be able to start doing more lower level tests, which I think will be quite useful, and I expect that they will start writing more tests like that. As far as where the balance will go eventually with Remix, I think they'll probably favor more on the Playwright side, and I think that's okay. Playwright is pretty fast. It does suffer from not being able to run very specific granular tests or lower level tests. Like there's a lot to running a test in Playwright, but yeah, it's like Playwright is pretty impressive. So anyway, I hope that sort of answers your question. As far as like my philosophy on testing, that is unchanged. The testing trophy is still the same idea. I want to focus on integration tests. You might notice actually my website only has end-to-end tests, and the project that I'm working on with called Rocket Rental for Epic Web mostly has end-to-end tests. I do have a couple of integration type tests as well, but it's mostly end-to-end, and that's mostly because when you just have a couple of tests, you want to make those tests end-to-end. When you have a bigger test suite, then it's better to lean more toward the integration tests. But if you just have a couple of tests, then you get a lot of benefit from just a few tests if they are end-to-end tests. And so even though they don't necessarily give you as much bang for your buck, if you're only going to write a couple of them, then the end-to-end tests are going to be the ones that you want to write. And eventually, I will definitely add a lot more testing to Rocket Rental, which is what I'm going to use for Epic Web. For my own website, I don't really plan on writing any tests for that because it's not like super critical or anything. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. I hope you have a nice day and continue enjoying your testing trophy for your testing philosophy for test. Take care.
This has been the Call Kent podcast. Learn more about Kent at kentcdodds.com and get your own questions answered at kentcdodds.com/calls.